welcome today. I want to start off by saying, first and foremost, that I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe. It's a real challenging time for a lot of us, and missing that connection that is so very, very important. But know that we will be seeing each other again soon, I hope. If you have any questions or comments for me, please don't hesitate to reach out via my email. It's the-kittycat@comcast.net. Try not to laugh at the email site because I'm basically too lazy to change it. So maybe someday that'll happen. But let's start off today. I just want to let you know that throughout this video, this particular video is going to be a breath work with joint freeing series, which I will explain, followed by some yin postures. So let us begin in a seated position, whether it is cross-legged in hero's pose or sitting on a chair. That is totally acceptable and totally beautiful if sitting in a cross-legged position is not your thing. So let's try to find ourselves in a neutral spine, so we close our eyes and drop our shoulders down away from our ears, and feel that kind of lift in your sternum or your breastbone up towards the ceiling, just creating that little bit of a nice curvature in your middle back, meaning a slight back bend, not a rounding forward. And I just want you to just take some deep breaths. Just notice how your breath is today. That's key first before we move into any type of breath work. But I just want you to just notice, like, where is your breath today? What's going on? Is the breath high? Can you expand it down a little bit deeper? Massaging into the diaphragm, massaging into the lower lobes of your lungs, massaging those internal organs, right? Just notice where your breath is right now. Even here, as you take those deep breaths, trying to make the breath draw in through the nose and out through the nose. Just like a wave, the inhale comes in and the exhale goes out. And just noticing where you are at this moment. Relaxing the muscles of your face. Even a slight parting of your lips. Just relax your tongue, relax the muscles around your mouth, your jaw. So key, because a lot of us, as I speak personally, hold our tension there. I hold my tension, my tongue is jammed up to the roof of my mouth consistently. So what I want us to do here is start to add a slight pause at the top of the inhalation and a slight pause at the bottom of the exhalation. Drawing the breath in, suspend the breath, letting the breath go, suspend the breath out. And a few breaths just like that. Let's take another breath right here. Now just let the breath come and go. And I'm going to walk us through the joint freeing series. So while you continue just to take some deep breaths, before I lead us into it, I want to talk a little bit about our joint systems. Some of you who know me know that that's one of my favorite things to talk about, that and your connective tissue. So our joint systems don't have a direct blood supply, right? So we have to create more fluidity and more blood flow to the joints. And I often, get people thinking, it's like, where do we find ourselves sort of creaking and little aches and pains, a little stiffness, that type of thing? It's in our joints, right? So even though these might be sort of quote unquote basic movements, they're really vital to the health and well-being of our joints, therefore the health and well-being to our entire body. So you can come into a seated position, maybe lean back on your hands and extend your feet out. You shake out your legs, and I just want you to concentrate on your toes, right? Flare your toes and curl your toes. And just spend some time opening and closing, spreading those toes as wide as you can and curling them in. Not at any particular rate, just working the joint systems of your toes for a little bit here. Continue to breathe deep while we go through these movements throughout the entire body. So now what I want you to do is flex your feet and point. and flex and point. Please go at your own rate, and I'm going to encourage you, maybe you take some where you're symmetrically pulling your toes towards your shins and pointing your toes forward, but then maybe do 1 foot at a time. Flex and point and switch it out. Flex and point and switch it out. Take a little bit of time here now and roll your ankles. Again, I'm not going to keep count here. We're now freeing up and moving into the ankles, right? We ask a lot of these joint systems, but yet how often do we care for them, right? So kind of shake them out, and now I want you to keep your legs still, or as still as possible, and just move your toes towards one another and away. So this is a lateral movement of the ankle joints that don't really get much of this movement. I'm betting anyway. So the next movement, it's always a maybe, it's always a we'll see, right? So even if you're sitting on a chair, you can grab your foot maybe, or if you're in a seated position, cross your ankle over. I'm starting with the right leg, and I want to try and get my fingers in between my toes. It might seem a little strange, especially if you've never done it, but it's really good to open up those joint systems because our toes are often kind of like jammed together, right? And just shake out your ankle a little bit, and again, add some of those nice, slow, gentle rotations. Make sure we go in both directions. Again, it's not about keeping a count. And because you're kind of shaking hands with your foot, you might pull your, toes towards your shin again and point, and maybe even just shake out your ankle a little bit, create a little bit more energy there. And I want you to take your hands behind your knee and relax that lower leg. And you're flexing and extending, and flexing and extending. So we're just moving the knee joint in the only directions that it likes to go. It likes to extend and flex. That's pretty much it. But again, it's important to move and work through the joint systems to create more fluidity, right? So maybe give yourself one more. Again, it's not a rigidness. Take your right knee in your hand and grab your foot. Now I want you to just kind of shake out that hip joint now and just circular motions of your hip. So think of the head of your thigh bone, right? The head of your femur, moving around gently in that hip socket, making sure you're going in both directions. And I sometimes kind of like to move, up and down, maybe back and across a little bit. And just relax that leg. Lean back in your hands for a moment, maybe close your eyes. Now that you've sort of worked the joint systems of your right leg, maybe you can energetically feel a little bit of a difference between the right side and the left side. So now we're going to move to the left side. We're going to take, once again, cross our ankle over, try and get your fingers in between your toes. It might not happen at first. If it's the first time you've tried to get your fingers in between your toes, might not happen. You might even be surprised that it doesn't happen, but it will happen over time. Again, it's kind of why I really like that phrase, practice makes practice, right? Practice doesn't make perfect. We're not trying to perfect anything here. And I guarantee you, every day is going to be different, right? So now grabbing behind that left knee and extend and flex. We're trying to really relax our foot, and we're trying to relax the lower part of our leg, and just really concentrating on the movement of the knee joint here. So again, it's like, how often do we really think of our joint systems until they maybe hurt or creak or make weird noises or are very stiff? Take your left knee in your hand, kind of just relax that leg. Your hands are supporting that leg, right? And then just slowly manipulate the head of that femur bone in the hip socket. It is a pretty amazing ball and socket joint system. And again, probably doesn't get this circular movement that often. And maybe you bring it across and back, maybe up and down. And then relax your leg out for a moment and shake your legs out. And just take a couple of deep breaths. Okay, so now we're gonna come onto our hands and knees. So, coming out onto your hands and knees, I personally really do like a cushion for my knees. Just feels a little bit better. We're gonna start with our right leg. I want you to extend your leg back and just bring it in. And let's just do that 5 times on this side. So, curl in and extend back. And bring it in and extend back. Let's do 2 more. Maybe lengthen out on the inhale and curl in on the exhale. I think that was 5, not 100% sure. Let's take our knees over to the right, so bringing them together, and slide your hips over. So you might come a little forward, you might slide your hips back. We're just trying to get a nice little stretch along the outer right hip for a little moment. All right, let's come back to center. Trying to keep perfect count this time. Let's extend our left leg back and bring it in. So we're just moving, again, the hip joint is really what we're concentrating on here. We're not drawing our chin in and curling in. Let's do 2 more. Once you've done that 5th one, take your knees over to the left and just give your hips a little slide. You can drop your head down. All right, since we are on our hands and knees, let's give ourselves a little toe squat. So curl those toes facing forward, and you might stay right here. You might slide your hips back, maybe even draw your knees forward. You're going for a stretch in the soles of your feet. Some of you I know like to come into an upright seated position, and that's totally fine, but I never want anybody to think that that's kind of where we're headed or that's the goal of the posture. The goal here, if there is such a thing, is to stretch through all the soles, or excuse me, the connective tissue in the soles of your feet. So just take another deep breath. We're not going to be here long today. And then I want you to go ahead and come forward, let your toes relax down. Shake them out a little bit or tap them on your mat or on the floor. And now we're going to come into what's called a hero's pose. So sitting hips to heels. Now that might mean you tuck a blanket behind your thighs just to open up those knee joints. And your hands can be in or they can be extended out. Doesn't matter, we're working the wrists now. So turn your palms down, fingers up towards the ceiling and down towards the floor. Again, a nice movement of the wrist joints that do so very much for us. There's like 8 little bones in your wrists. And how often do we take care of our wrists? Same thing here. You give yourself 1 more, not keeping a count. Now I just want you to roll out your wrists. Again, making sure we go in both directions. And I'm even going to say here, well, one more thing. Let's turn our palms up. Drop those shoulders down and bring pinkies or fingers towards one another and out. It feels kind of weird, not necessarily in a good way, but again, it's not a movement that our wrist joints get very often. So moving them in and out. And then here's how I'm just going to ask you just to shake them out. Just give yourself a little bit of a shake. Just move them around, creating more blood flow. Now we're going to extend our arms out, palms up, and bring our fingers towards our shoulders and back out. This might even end up being a little bit of a shoulder workout for you because we're going to be here for a little bit. So feel free to just relax at any time. Now we're working into the elbow joint, right? So totally lost count, totally doesn't matter. Give yourself, let's go 2 more. You can do as many or as few as you'd like. So now I want you to bring your fingers towards your shoulders and take your elbows out wide and in and out and in. You can do this at whatever speed. I kind of almost suggest inhale, extend wide, exhale in. Maybe even close your eyes here. Nothing we need to look at, right? And you can just concentrate on what your shoulders are doing here. So, as I really like to get us to think, give yourself, let's 1 more. Take your elbows out wide, fingertips towards the ceiling, and then just rotate fingers down towards the floor and back up. This is an internal and slightly external or neutral position of the shoulders. What I was going to say before is that shoulders, man, they're fascinating. They are 3 bones weaved together with connective tissue. your collarbone, your humerus bone, and your scapula on your back. But they're not connected per se. So we ask so much of these beautiful shoulders that we want to take care of that joint system. All right, let's give ourselves let's go one more, up and down. Relax your arms down for a moment. Now, here's where my fingers touch the floor. So I'm gonna sit on a block here, just so I have a little bit more room, because I want you to extend your arms up and back behind you. So sweeping them up and sweeping them back. Again, your arms can be narrow, close to the body. That doesn't feel good to me. I like my arms wider, and take them back. Your shoulders are your shoulders. Nobody's shoulders are alike. So we want to make sure we're not pinching. We're actually trying to free up this joint system. Okay, let's do one more. Take a big inhale, swing your arms up. Exhale and take them back. All right, let's shake them out here a little bit. And I just want you to take some neck rolls. So slow neck rolls. If for whatever reason it doesn't feel good to do this while you're in an upright position, come onto your hands and knees and do some neck rolls there. But I really want you to soften the muscles of your face. Maybe let your lips just part gently, relaxing those muscles, and let's go in the other direction. And let's go ahead and end with our chin towards our chest for a few moments. And just drop your shoulders down, slightly ease them back, not trying to be aggressive with our shoulders, but I just want you to feel a nice stretch in the back of your neck. So your arms can hang heavy by your sides. They can rest on your thighs. I want you to see where that breath is again. Try and get that breath down deeper, taking the complete breath, meaning the inhale starts in the tummy, rises to the rib cage, lastly through to the chest. Exhale, tummy, rib cage, and chest. Let's take another deep breath here. Let's go ahead and slowly swing our right ear over towards our right shoulder. Feel that nice pull on the left side of your neck. Also extremely important. You've got you got so many muscles in the neck area that I haven't memorized yet, but you've got these scalene muscles, these long, thin muscles on the side of your neck, and they are responsible for a lot of your head movement, and they often get really jammed up here. Now, for the sake of time, you can certainly stay here if you're like, wow, I just really feel tight on the side of my neck and I need to hang out here for a few moments. The next move is going to be ever so slightly tilting your chin up towards the ceiling and maybe slightly back. So what I want you to try and feel here is oh so important on the left front side of your neck, the SCM muscle, and it is so responsible when it gets all tight. So you kind of have to move your head to wherever it feels best so you can feel that stretch in the front left side of your neck. When that muscle in particular gets really tight, it has a tendency to pull our head forward and down, right? So relax your jaw. And as slowly as you can, I want you to very gently, very slowly start to roll your chin back down towards your chest. Really, really, really taking your time here as you swing your left ear over towards your left shoulder. Now, in order for you to really try to release those muscles now on the right side of your neck, you gotta relax other parts of your body, right? Fingers, toes, eyes, everything just softens a little bit. And again, I want you to keep these stretches for as long as you would like. You know, you can always pause the video and you're like, I'm gonna hang out here for 2-3 minutes because I'm really starting to feel a release. I want you to at least try to be here for about 90 seconds, maybe longer. And then when you're ready, we slowly, slowly, slowly start to tilt our chin up towards the ceiling. You gotta kind of move your head to wherever it feels best to you, but the target area is now the right front side of our neck. It's that muscle that you can really kind of feel and even, maybe take hold of. So important to relax and soften there. So with your eyes closed, I want you to be concentrating on the front right side of your neck. And with each breath, maybe with each exhale, just telling that area, that muscle in particular, there are other muscles there, but that muscle in particular to relax. Take another deep breath here or stay, your choice. And then as slowly as you can, start to rotate your chin back down towards your chest. I want you to bring your head back to a neutral position as slowly as you can and with an exhalation, because it's just easier on the body. Keeping your eyes closed or heavy, and just take a moment here. So before we settle into some yin postures today, I want you to come back out onto your hands and knees. Okay? So from your hands and knees, I just want you to take some movements of your own. Maybe taking a nice deep inhale into our cow pose as you drop your tummy down, lift through the crown of your head. Take a nice exhale as you round in, feel your back, the back side of your spine easing up towards the ceiling. And take some movements of your own. So that might be a nice inhale and exhale back and forth from our cow-cat. But you can also slide your hips back to a child's pose or come out into a seal pose. Just move your spine, right? Maybe you look over one shoulder, draw your hip towards your shoulder, switch to the other side. Just move your spine. There is no right or wrong here. You're just trying to create more fluidity within your spine. Oh, so important. Okay, so I want us to settle into what I think is a really important stretch. We have our beautiful rib cage, right? We get very stuck there. There's internal, external, intercostal muscles. So some of you, especially those who attend my classes on a regular basis, know where we're headed. So I always give two options. And if you don't have like bolsters and yoga blocks, you can always make some of those things at home, right? You can use blankets and towels and so on and so forth. So Banana Asana is one of my favorite postures. I'm gonna ask you to lie down on your back. Okay, hopefully we can see this. So, two variations. You can take your legs over to the right side of your mat. You can cross your left foot over your right if you would like. Take your arms up over your head, and maybe you grasp gently your left wrist. So you're creating like a banana shape, right? Or a half moon shape with your body. The target area is the left side of your body. Left side of your rib cage. Maybe you're feeling a nice beautiful stretch all the way down your body. Now, you can always drop your right arm down to your side, but we want to try and get our hips and our shoulders relaxing down. If this is not your cup of tea, you can come into a side lying stretch. So again, using a bolster or rolling up some towels, and you want to put the bolster on the rib cage, your right rib cage, and go up and over the bolster. So again, your legs can be shaped however you would like them to really feel that left side stretch. So those are your two options. Some of you may have already began the posture, but I'm going to time us for 3 minutes. So you go, because I don't need to be in the posture. But what I want you to feel, again, is the target area, left rib cage. We do get really jammed up in our rib cage. And our rib cage is a super awesome, protective armor, if you will, for protecting some of our, or a lot of our internal organs. But we also have a lot of connective tissue within this area. And we do get really stuck within the rib cage. We get tight, which restricts our breathing. And so you need to feel free to shift and move your body however it's going to work best for you, so you can feel that expansion on the left side. Because then as you settle in, you've got 2 more minutes. Then as you settle in, you can really start to concentrate on how the breath is freeing up the rib cage, right, on the left side at this time. So what I mean by that is take a deep inhale to fill up the left side, exhale into the right side, and maybe soften a little bit. So where your attention goes, your prana or your life force goes. That's what is often said. And so kind of think about that for a moment. If you're off in your head someplace else, it is so easy to do. That's where your life force is going. Your life force is going off of your mat, out into whatever else. I'm not going to start putting those ideas into your head. That's why it's kind of nice. Think, inhale, fill up the left side, exhale and soften. Inhale into that left side, exhale into the right side, whatever works for you. You've got just under a minute here. Now, if the posture is no longer serving you, if you're like, wow, it's kind of becoming intense, like this is becoming too much, feel free to leave the posture. Nothing says you have to stay. You certainly don't have to listen to me. So, because you are your own best guide. You are your own best teacher. So think about that. The posture needs to serve you, not the other way around. If you are still in the posture, great. Stay and take a few more deeper breaths. Even trying to add in that suspension at the top of the inhale and pause and suspension out at the bottom of the exhale. And if you're not in the posture anymore, totally fine. Inhale, exhale, just breathe. Let's take one more deep breath here. Maybe keeping your eyes closed or at least very heavy. Slow motion out of the posture. That might mean just releasing to the center of your mat, just laying down for a moment. Or if you are in that side lying stretch, you're slowly coming back up off of your prop and just sit for a moment. Before we switch sides, we need to feel. So in order to feel, we need to pause. And gosh, my hope is that maybe your left side feels expansive, feels just more open. And the right side is like, wait, is it my turn yet? Take another deep breath. All right, let's take it over to the other side. So that banana asana, taking your legs over to the left. And if you'd like, you can cross that right ankle over. If that makes it too intense, it just doesn't feel comfortable, don't do it. Or laying over that bolster, putting the bolster on horizontal on your mat or on the floor, and drape your rib cage over that bolster, up and over, and relax. So again, I'm not going to be in the posture. I want you to do what's best for your body. Because sometimes I will get asked the question, well, gosh, if I'm in the side lying stretch, how should my legs be? That's up to you. You can extend both of your legs long. You can put a blanket or a block in between your knees or your thighs. You can do whatever allows you to just feel a little bit more open in the right side of your rib cage. And we're freeing up the rib cage, which when we free up the rib cage, it frees up our breath, it frees up our heart, it frees up our diaphragm. I mean, I could just go on and on. It's a part of our body. As some of you have already mentioned to me that you actually like me talking a little bit more about our anatomy and so on and so forth. It is a movement of our spine that we just don't do often enough. That lateral side stretching, we just really don't allow our spines to do very often. I think it's probably in my humble opinion, it's probably one of what's what I'm looking for? It's the most underused movement of our spine, again, in my humble opinion. So I'm just letting you know you have another minute and a half here. I'd like you, if it's comfortable, because again, it's a breath practice, not a breath perfection. I'd like you to try and see if it feels comfortable for you to suspend the breath in for a couple of counts and suspend the breath out for a couple of counts. If it's not comfortable today, it's not comfortable. I do breath exercises every day, and every day it's different. Some days it's just, wow, this breath technique works and it feels so great to suspend the breath out for 30 seconds or a minute or even longer, and you can drop into that space. Other days it's like, nope, not happening. A breath practice, right? You have about 40 seconds. Again, if the posture is still serving you, great. If it's become too much, let it go. All right, I'd like you to take one more deep breath here. Very slow motion release, either back to the center of your mat just to lay down, or come to a seated position. Either or. That pause is so very important. So we are going to come into Sphinx pose or seal pose next. As I do like to say, if you already know the posture, you know where you're headed, go for it. If you're not so familiar, there's so many ways you can do this posture. I personally like to take a blanket or a towel to cushion my elbows, and I really do like a yoga block, and you want to settle your spine, right? So I've got a couple of students that will take 2 blocks, because this is a little bit more. The target area, if you will, is your lumbar curve, your lower back. So you're not trying to hold yourself upright here. You're trying to relax, and that might mean your head like hangs out and rests on your upper trapezius muscle, or for me personally, I like to let my head relax down. This is kind of today, so I'm gonna move the blocks, but I'm gonna keep a block handy because I really love to rest my head on the block and maybe even roll my forehead, my brow line gently, slowly back and forth on that block. Kind of feels lovely to release pressure points. So you've got to give yourself permission to shift and move how you see foot. I'm just giving you some cues. Some of us are going to put a bolster underneath our lower legs to rest our lower legs on. Some of us are going to take our knees really wide and let our feet just gently rest towards one another. You've got time, right? I want you to try and close your eyes and really think of your lumbar spine, that beautiful curve in our low back that we often take out because we're slumping. We're posteriorly tilting our hips back. We're, you know how we are. We slump in our chairs. So every one of us meets a different point of compression in our low back too, right? So if you're not feeling anything here, if you're like, I feel it, but I don't really that much, you can come up into seal pose. So that might mean taking your hands out, but if you're in this position, you still need to rest and soften your spine. So we're going for a compression and not a pinching sensation. Like if I really come up high in this posture, now it's just pinching my low back and it doesn't really feel good. But if I slide my hands out a little ways, that feels better. For those of us that might be on our elbows and relaxing, and it's still maybe too much today, bring your elbows out. You can always rest your head down. You can be here and rest your head on a block, because that's maybe where you are today. Now, you've got about another minute to be in the posture. The best analogy I've ever heard, again in my head, is as though your spine was like a necklace hanging on a hook. It's just hanging there. It's not supporting you at the moment. You are just allowing your spine to rest. And again, that includes your neck. So whether your head's hanging out or whether your head's dropped down. This is such a beautiful opportunity. You have about 45 seconds left. This is such a beautiful opportunity to really breathe into those lower lobes of your lungs. So on an inhale, the belly expands. Maybe take some of that compression off your low back. On your exhale, the belly softens. Let's take a few more deep breaths right here. Let's take one more nice deep breath. All right, I want you to lower all the way down. Your head can rest straight down, or you can turn your head to the side for a little cervical spine twist. Rest. If your head is turned to one side, please very slowly rotate to the other side. All right, you can add some movement here. We're going to meet in a seated position. So if you want to bend your knees and just slowly swish your legs back and forth. Again, taking whatever movements serve you. You might want to take a moment to slide your hips back into a child's pose. Okay, so coming up to a seated position. Again, this is a beautiful posture. It's called half saddle pose. Right when I said beautiful posture, some of you might have gone, nope, it's really not. So there's always an option, right? You can come into a lunge or you can come into the pontoon. So half saddle is this. I'm gonna bring my right leg back. And I personally like to put a blanket underneath my left hip. It just levels off my hips. So you can take a bolster behind you, or you might just be today leaning back on your hands. I like to bend my left knee, plant my foot, lift my hips and just slide my low back a little forward, and that's going to intensify the stretch on the right thigh, quadriceps into the hip flexors. So you might be right here, you might drop your left leg out to the side. These are all just experiments, right? If you choose to lay back on a bolster or lay all the way down. Now, if your right knee floats, you can put a block or a blanket underneath there. What I don't want you to do is try to force that knee to the floor. If you're like, no, thank you today, you can take a block to your low back and extend your right leg long. Hug your left knee into your chest. The function is the right thigh. Lastly, gosh, I got to, sorry. You can come into a lunge and take your right leg back because every body is different. You've got 3 minutes. I want you to come into the posture where you feel that nice quadricep, maybe into your hip flexors. One of your quadriceps is a hip flexor. So again, maybe you're feeling it right here today. And you're like, I need to stay right here until that stretch kind of eases away. And then maybe you go a little further. You're like, now I need to hang out there for a little bit. Some of us will put our head on a block or slide a bolster underneath. So it's all an experimentation. So here's where, gosh, I've been really talking through this one. Here's the thing. Every body is different. You need to have variations. My wonderful teacher will always say, you always have to give at least 2 variations to every posture, at least 2. Because what works for one body doesn't necessarily work for another body. I also love the thought process of asking everybody to do the same posture is like asking everybody to wear the same pair of shoes. It is not going to work. Our bone structures are different. The story and the history of our bodies are different. So we need to do what's best. Now, as I tell you, you still have about another minute and a half left. It's up to you. The posture needs to serve you. So if something becomes too intense, let it go. Because nothing in the body works independently just on its own, we do have to take into consideration that everything is connected. So again, here's where my little lecture will come in. When we do these postures on a more regular basis, there is a memory there. There is a, oh, I've been here before. But if we just do these postures every now and again, chances are good we're not going to. We're gonna like almost start over again and again and again. So it stands to reason, right? Our connective tissue is this amazing network throughout our entire body. And there's fluidity there. There's movability there. It's got these amazing different qualities and structures that allow for stability, yet mobility. But we need to pay attention to it. So take one more deep breath. Whichever posture you have chosen, you need to move out of it slowly. So if you're in that half saddle pose, you might come up first and then slowly straighten that right knee out. If you're in a lunge position, you might slide your hips back. And if you were in that what's called pontoon with your hips on a block, just come into supported bridge or extend your legs up towards the ceiling for a moment. Just relax. Take a few more deep breaths. And then I really want you to take your time to move to the other side. So again, as we bring that left knee back, if you're in that half saddle pose, it's one step at a time. Maybe that left knee is floating, so you slide a block underneath it to support the joint, right? In a lunge position, you might want to cushion that left knee with a blanket and be here. If you're in that pontoon position, remember, you've got the low and the medium heights. I think the high, a little too much for me anyway, because we want our hips to feel stable. Oh shoot, I was gonna say something else. Here's where I can bring in my own little story of having an ACL repair, anterior cruciate ligament of the right knee. And if I hadn't worked through these postures, I would not have the same range of motion in my right knee as I do in my left knee. If you do have scar tissue, you can break up scar tissue, but it takes your patience, it takes your time, and I think above all, it takes your compassion for yourself to allow for time. So as I say that, eyes are closed. Sometimes in these postures, as I am so fortunate to be able to guide people through their practices in a live situation, this is about the time where I'll see like a pained look on somebody's face, like their brows are furrowed together and their lips are all scrunched up and they look like they're in pain. Remember, whatever expression we might be holding on our face, let us just stay on our face. That travels throughout our entire body. Relax the muscles of your forehead. Soften the muscles in between your eyebrows. Relax your eyelids. I'm only telling you this because this is just a point of reference for time. You have about a minute left. It's your minute. If you release from the posture, fine. Just take deep breaths. If you're still in the posture and it's still serving you, fine. Just take deep breaths. All right, moving at your own pace. Please take 2 more deep breaths. When you are ready, please slowly release. Again here, whether you've chosen to lie down or come to a seated position, try to find at least a couple of breaths where you are completely still. All right, we're just going to do one more yin posture today. And it's kind of an interesting one, and I am going to give you a choice because I think you always should have a choice. So it is butterfly pose. The function is primarily the low back, but I'm going to give you 2 different variations that are very different from one another because butterfly pose is such an enigma, and I'll try not to be too wordy, but I'm going to ask you to sit on the edge of a blanket, soles of your feet together, knees apart. For you, that might mean lovely support underneath the outer thighs. That's beautiful. Heels can be as close as you like, or as far away as you'd like. And you're gonna scoot those sits bones back, and you're gonna slowly start to round forward. Really trying to release tension from your low back. Now, some of us might like a block for our head. Here's where props are so great because I personally would like to have like 3 blocks. I'd like to have blocks for my outer thighs and then another block for my head. I've seen people use a bolster to rest their head on. If this posture is just, wow, you're maybe up here and you're all scrunched in and you really don't like it, couple of options. You can put your feet on blocks and come forward. We want the tops of our hips tilting with us. If you're like, today, wow, I really just want to lay back and come into a supported butterfly, I like a block in between my shoulder blades, and I actually like a block for my feet. And open up right here. So we only have time for one of them. So choose one, either coming forward, feeling that nice stretch in your low back, or easing back and feeling maybe a little more openness in your heart space, your chest and shoulders. It's your posture, it's your time. We have time for one. Breathe. So again, for another 3 minutes, I'm not going to be in the posture. As I kind of talk you through it a little bit, the reason I think I already said that butterfly pose is kind of an enigma to me means that people will feel it in different places. I feel it all in my low back when I come forward, but some people really feel a nice inner thigh groin stretch. Some people feel maybe a little bit of outer hip. It's because our bones are different, and where we carry our tensions and where we feel our compressions are very different. Again, as I refer to my teacher all the time, because I had an amazing teacher for yin yoga and really the energetics of the body, the connective tissue of the body, the joint systems, the meridians of the body. Not only are we all built differently, but the thing that we all need to really remember is tension is something we can release. we can release tension from the inner thigh. We can release tension and tightness that we might get in the connective tissue of our chest or our outer hips. Compression, there's nothing we can do about that. That's how we're built. That's our bone structure. That's how our joint systems are. Some of us have more range of motion. Some of us have less. So when we really start to understand our range of motion and our bone structure, and how one posture is never going to feel the same in any body, totally frees up our practice for what it's supposed to be for us. Again, tension is something you can slowly relax and release. It's going to probably come back. That's why we practice again and again and again. Compression, how our bones are made, the length of our arms, the length of our torso, the length of our legs, the spaces in between our spine are different for each and every one of us. You have about another 40 seconds. Stay in the posture and breathe, or let it go and breathe. All right, take one more nice deep breath. Slowly use your hands to roll your spine back up, or if you're lying back, take your hands and bring your knees together or bring your legs together. Just be still. We're eventually all going to end up on our backs, because I want to give you a few moments here. So when you're on your back, I want you to take some movements of your own. That might mean for you today to plant your feet and come up into a bridge pose for a moment. That might mean hug your knees into your chest. Maybe take a moment to twist to one side, twist to the other side. Close your eyes and just give yourself a little bit of time to move. That might mean, again, hug your knees in, rock side to side, grab the soles of your feet and come into happy baby pose. That might mean, one of my favorites is to bring my legs up. Maybe a block at your sacrum. We're going to be resting in Shavasana in just a moment. But, sometimes it feels really nice to shift and move a little bit, and then you're going to let yourself settle. I do really like the idea. I think I mentioned this in my last video, how one student in particular, I noticed more and more people doing this, where when you finally come into Shavasana, maybe you tense, tighten, lift, squeeze everything together, so your body maybe shakes for a moment and then completely let go. Close your eyes, and I'm going to offer up a suggestion here. I'm just going to offer up, maybe you take a little bit of time here to tell every part of your body to relax. You allow your toes to relax, your feet and your ankles to become heavier, the lower half of your legs to become heavy, your knees to soften, your thighs and your hips to become supported. And just feel that. Maybe you take your own time, your own pace to tell parts of your body to relax. Where your attention goes, your prana and your life force flows. So send your attention and your life force to each part of your body letting yourself know that it's okay to relax, it's okay to let go. I will call you out when it's time. All right. Let's start with those beautiful joint systems of fingers and toes, and perhaps rolling out your wrists and your ankles, and start to incorporate the other joint systems of, potentially hugging your knees to your chest. If you wish to add a full body stretch, maybe take a little gentle twist side to side. Try and keep your eyes closed or heavy. I'd like you to make your way back up to a seated position. Again, you can choose to end your practice on your back. Completely fine, of course. And even as you bring yourself up, if you bring yourself up to a seated position, be cross-legged, hero's pose, again, on a chair. It's your practice. I would like you to try and keep the visual sense out by keeping your eyes closed or heavy, and take a moment to appreciate yourself. You know, we need to take care of this physical body because it does hold our energetic body. And often our energetic body gets really bogged down by the things we add to it, our worries, our stresses, our so on and so forth, to the energetic body. And then sometimes we don't take care of the physical body. So when we take care of the physical, we take care of the energetic, the mental, emotional, the spiritual. And above all, these asanas, these postures that we put ourselves through, or maybe I shouldn't say it like that, but as we move and shift our body, we're freeing up energy. And we're really hopefully freeing up our spine. So as you come to that seated position, my hope is that your spine is more comfortable in its neutral space. Beautiful curves where we're not bringing our chin forward and down, we're not rounding our shoulders, we're not slumping in, and really compressing all these vital organs and our heart, our diaphragm. Draw your hands into your heart center. I will cue it, but I'd like you to take this at your own pace, please. So exhale everything out. Take your time. Deep inhale. Fill up belly, rib cage, chest. Suspend the breath. Full deep exhale, open mouth, let it go. Belly, rib cage, chest, and suspend it out. You're going to take 2 more deep breaths at your pace, please. Let your breath just flow in and flow out at its normal rate, at its normal pace, not trying to make anything happen. Keeping your thumbs at your heart center, or draw your thumbs up to your third eye and give yourself a slight bow. A bow to you, a bow to your practice. A thank you to you, to your practice. Now think of extending that thank you out to everyone. Send out your compassion, your kindness, your thoughts of health and well-being to everyone. Thank you for allowing me to guide you through your practice. And namaste. Be safe, be happy, be well.